Two men wake up to the same alarm and the same kind of life, facing the same kind of world. One of them groans, reaches for his phone, and hands his first waking moments to strangers on the internet. The other lies still for 60 seconds, breathes, and before he moves a single muscle, he chooses who he is going to be today. Difference. Quiet, invisible, requiring no special talent, is where everything begins. The Stoics spent centuries studying this exact divide. Not the divide between the rich and the poor, the lucky and the unlucky, the gifted and the ordinary. The divide between those who have mastered themselves and those who have not. They found that the distance between a strong mind and a weak one is not measured in intelligence. It is not measured in privilege. It is measured in habits, specific, daily, non-negotiable habits that either build something unbreakable inside a person or slowly, quietly let it crumble. Marcus Aurelius called it the work of a lifetime. Epictetus called it the only freedom worth pursuing. Seneca called it the only wealth that cannot be taken from you. And today, for the first time clearly laid out, you are going to see exactly what those habits are. Not theory, not philosophy, locked in ancient Greek. Living, breathing decisions you can make starting today, because a strong mind was never given. It was always built. Strong minds choose their first thought. Weak minds let the world choose it for them. The most important moment of your entire day happens before you say a single word. It happens in the first seconds after you open your eyes, in that thin, sacred space between sleep and full consciousness. When your mind is still soft, still impressionable, still deciding what kind of day this is going to be. The weak mind fills that space immediately with noise, the phone, the news, the overnight notifications, the world's emergencies delivered straight into the most vulnerable moment of the human mind. The Stoics treated the morning differently. Marcus Aurelius began each day with what scholars now call the morning meditation, a deliberate, private act of mental preparation. Before the court, before the generals, before the empire, he sat with himself and reminded himself of the philosophy he intended to live by that day. He did not wait to be shaped by events. He shaped himself before events arrived. The habit is this: claim your first 15 minutes. Protect them like a soldier protects a gate. In that window, before the phone, before the scroll, before anyone else's voice enters your head, decide who you are going to be. Read one Stoic passage. Write 3 intentions. Sit in silence and breathe. It does not matter which. What matters is that the first author of your day is you, and not the algorithm that was designed to keep you anxious, distracted, and dependent. Strong minds begin the day by taking ownership of it. Weak minds begin it by handing ownership away. That single difference, compounded across years, produces entirely different human beings. Number 2. Strong minds observe their emotions. Weak minds are controlled by them. There is a profound difference between feeling an emotion and being that emotion. Every human being feels anger, fear, jealousy, grief, and desire. The Stoics did not pretend otherwise, and they did not teach otherwise. What they taught, with brilliant, practical precision, was the art of standing slightly apart from your own emotional states, watching them arrive, understanding what triggered them, choosing whether to act from them or not, Epictetus described it as the discipline of assent, the trained refusal to automatically agree with every impression the mind produces. When anger rises, the weak mind says, "This is reality. I must act on this." The strong mind says, "This is a feeling. Let me examine it before it speaks for me. This is not repression." The Stoics were not asking you to feel nothing. They were asking you to feel everything consciously. There is a world of difference between an emotion that passes through you and an emotion that drives your car, sends your emails, and ruins your relationships while you watch helplessly from the back seat. The daily practice. When an emotion rises sharply, pause for 10 seconds before responding. Ask, is this emotion giving me accurate information, or is it giving me a distorted one? Most of the time, it is giving you something in between. The pause is not weakness. The pause is where your character lives. Strong minds have learned to live in that pause. Weak minds have never found it. Number 3, strong minds decide what matters. Weak minds let culture decide for them. Here is one of the most uncomfortable truths in all of Stoic philosophy. Most of what you are currently chasing was not chosen by you. The career you're grinding toward, the body you think you need, the house, the status, the number in the account, the version of success that keeps you up at night. How much of that did you actually sit down and choose? How much of it seeped into you from advertising, from comparison, from the quiet pressure of a world that profits from your dissatisfaction? Seneca wrote with sharp clarity, "It is not that I am brave enough to desire little. It is that I am wise enough to see that most of what people desire is not worth desiring." The Stoics were not anti-ambition. They were anti-borrowed ambition. They believed that a life spent chasing someone else's definition of meaning is not a life lived. It is a life performed. The habit of self-defined values requires a kind of intellectual courage that most people never exercise. It means sitting down, alone, honestly, without consulting what anyone else will think, and answering the question, what do I actually value? What do I actually value? What kind of person do I actually want to be? Not the Instagram version. Not the version your parents imagined. The real one. Strong minds have answered this question and return to it regularly. Weak minds avoid it because the answer might require them to change number IV. Strong minds do the difficult thing first. Weak minds do it last, or never. Every day contains one task you are quietly dreading. You know the one. It has been sitting in the back of your mind since yesterday, maybe since last week. It is the conversation you haven't had, the work you haven't started, the decision you haven't made, the apology you haven't given. And every hour you delay it, it grows slightly heavier, and you grow slightly weaker for having avoided it. The Stoics understood the mathematics of avoidance with brutal clarity. Every act of procrastination on a difficult thing is a small act of self-betrayal. You tell yourself, I will do it later. But what you are really saying is, I do not trust myself to handle difficulty. And the mind, which is always listening, believes you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, do not indulge in such thoughts as I will do this later, for I may not be able to perform it at all. He was not talking about efficiency. He was talking about character. The habit of doing the hard thing first, before the easy things seduce you into comfort, trains your mind to believe that you are someone who moves toward difficulty rather than away from it. That belief, once installed, changes everything. Because a mind that trusts itself to handle difficulty is a mind that stops fearing it. And a mind that stops fearing difficulty has just gained access to most of the life it was previously too afraid to pursue. Number 5. Strong minds speak carefully. Weak minds speak constantly. In an age that has mistaken volume for intelligence, the Stoic habit of guarded speech is quietly revolutionary. Epictetus was one of the most brilliant minds of the ancient world, and he was famous for his silence. In social situations, not shyness, not disengagement, deliberate, observant, purposeful restraint. He taught his students, the more you speak about yourself, the less mysterious and powerful you become. Every word spent on self-narration is a word that could have been spent on self-examination. There is also the matter of commitment. The weak mind announces its intentions loudly, the new diet, the new discipline, the new life it is about to begin. And in that announcement, something dangerous happens. The brain receives a preview of the satisfaction it was meant to feel only upon completion. The result is a person who has told the story of their transformation so many times, they no longer feel the urgency to actually undergo it. Strong minds are disciplined with language in a different way. They use words to clarify thinking, not to perform it. They ask more questions than they make declarations. They say what they mean and mean what they say, rarely, carefully, and with the full weight of a mind that has thought before it spoke. The habit. For 1 week, speak only about what you have already done, not what you are planning to do. Notice the discomfort of that constraint. Then notice what fills the space that your announcements used to occupy. You will find in that space something surprisingly powerful, the actual work. Number VI. Strong minds seek criticism. Weak minds seek validation. Nothing stunts growth more efficiently than an environment full of people who only tell you what you want to hear. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, kept advisors specifically chosen for their willingness to disagree with him. In a culture where a single nod from the emperor could determine a man's fate, this was extraordinary. He wrote, "If anyone can show me I'm wrong, I'll change. For I seek truth by which no one was ever harmed." The man had every reason, every incentive, every social permission to be surrounded by approval, and he deliberately chose otherwise. The weak mind seeks mirrors, people and environments that reflect its own beliefs back to it, amplified and validated. The result is a person whose blind spots grow larger with every passing year, who becomes increasingly confident about things they are increasingly wrong about, who is genuinely shocked when reality eventually disagrees with them. The strong mind seeks windows, clear views onto its own limitations. It asks the hard question, where am I deceiving myself right now? And it does not ask that question of people who love it too much to answer honestly. It asks it of people with the courage to tell the truth and the wisdom to tell it with care. The habit. Identify one person in your life who will tell you the truth without softening it. Schedule a conversation with them once a month. Ask them specifically where they see you falling short. Then, and this is the part that separates the strong from the weak, listen without defending. Every word of honest criticism is a gift. that your comfortable admirers are too afraid to give you number VII. Strong minds train their bodies. Weak minds neglect them. The Stoics were not purely cerebral philosophers. They were deeply aware that the mind and body are not separate instruments. They are one system, and a system neglected in one part will eventually fail in all parts. Musonius. Rufus, one of the lesser-known but most practical of the Stoic philosophers, wrote at length about the necessity of physical training, not for vanity, not for performance, for character. He argued that a person who cannot endure physical discomfort is a person who cannot endure any other kind of discomfort. And since life is full of every kind of discomfort, the person who avoids the physical version is quietly training themselves to be soft everywhere. There is a discipline that enters you through physical training that cannot be acquired any other way. The athlete who has run when she did not want to run has learned something about herself that no amount of reading or reflection can teach. She has learned that the feeling of I cannot is almost always not a fact. It is an opinion, and a premature one. The habit is not complicated. Move your body deliberately and with some degree of effort every day, not for the aesthetics, for the evidence it gives your mind that you're someone who does hard things consistently. The body is the oldest, most reliable laboratory for testing mental strength. Strong minds use it. Weak minds treat it as an afterthought, and wonder why their resolve keeps collapsing. Number VII. Strong minds sit with uncertainty. Weak minds demand certainty. The need for certainty, for guaranteed outcomes, assured results, and risk-free decisions is one of the most crippling habits of the weak mind, because the world has never offered certainty, has never promised it, and has never once been obligated to provide it. The Stoics lived in one of the most uncertain periods of human history, empires collapsing, plagues sweeping cities, political violence at every elevation of society, and they developed a philosophy specifically designed to thrive in that uncertainty. The core teaching was this: separate what is up to you from what is not, and invest your energy exclusively in the former. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." This is not wishful thinking. It is a trained cognitive habit, the practiced refusal to pre-suffer outcomes that may never arrive, and the practiced trust that when difficulty does arrive, you will have what you need to meet it. The habit of sitting with uncertainty is built through small acts of tolerance, making a decision with imperfect information and living with it, beginning a project before you know how it ends, committing to a direction without a map of every step. The strong mind understands that clarity rarely comes before action. It almost always comes through it. Weak minds wait for certainty that will never come and call that waiting wisdom. Number IX. Strong minds review their days. Weak minds just repeat them. There is a story told about Seneca that he never ended a day without examining it. Every evening, before sleep, he would ask himself 3 questions. What weakness did I overcome today? What virtue did I practice? Where did I fall short of who I intend to be? Not as self-punishment, as navigation. The same way a captain checks his position each night to make sure the ship is still heading toward the right shore, The weak mind lives its days in a blur of reaction, moving from one thing to the next without ever pausing to ask whether any of it is working, whether the direction is right, whether the person doing all of this living is actually growing or simply repeating the same year over and over with slightly different scenery. The compounding power of the evening review is almost mathematical. A person who examines their behavior daily and makes tiny adjustments is not the same person 1 year later. They are measurably, profoundly different. Sharper in judgment, more consistent in virtue, more aligned between who they say they are and who they actually are. When no one is watching, the habit takes 5 minutes. Sit down before sleep. Ask 3 things. What did I do well today? What would I do differently? What do I want to carry into tomorrow? The answers matter less than the asking, because the mind that asks these questions every night is a mind that is building itself on purpose, and a mind being built on purpose is the definition of a strong one. Number X. Strong minds accept impermanence. Weak minds fight it. Everything you have will one day be gone. Every person you love will die or leave. Every achievement will fade. Every body will fail. Every empire, including the private empire of the life you have built, will eventually be returned to the universe that loaned it to you. The weak mind knows this and looks away. It builds walls of busyness, distraction, and entertainment to avoid sitting with this truth for more than a moment. And in its avoidance it becomes quietly enslaved to everything it is afraid of losing. Every relationship becomes anxious. Every success becomes fragile. Every good moment is shadowed by the dread of its ending. The Stoics looked directly at impermanence and found, astonishingly, that it was not a reason for despair. It was the deepest possible reason for presence. Amor fati, love of fate, was their answer to mortality. Not acceptance as resignation, but acceptance as embrace. This moment, in all its imperfection and uncertainty and fragility, is the only moment available. Love it completely, not despite its impermanence, but because of it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." The man had buried children, had watched friends betray him, had spent years at war, and he had arrived through philosophy and practice at a place of genuine peace with the flowing, impermanent nature of all things. The habit of accepting impermanence is practiced in gratitude, specific, daily, unperformed gratitude for what is here right now, the conversation you're having, the breath in your body, the difficulty you are growing through. Strong minds hold all of it lightly, knowing it is borrowed. And in that lightness, in that open-handed relationship with life, they find a freedom that no amount of clinging has ever produced. 10 habits, 10 decisions, 10 ways of moving through the world that cost nothing but intention and return everything. You have just read the philosophy that kept Marcus Aurelius sane while governing an empire, that gave Epictetus freedom while living in chains, that gave Seneca peace while facing death. None of them were born strong. Every one of them built it in the ordinary, unglamorous daily practice of choosing to think a little better, act a little more deliberately, and refuse quietly, firmly, without drama, to become less than they were capable of being. The strong mind is not the one that never wavers. It is the one that notices the wavering, names it honestly, and returns again and again and again to who it has decided to be, that returning, that quiet, stubborn returning. That is the whole of it. You will have hard days, days when every one of these habits feels impossible, when the noise is too loud and the resolve too thin, and the easier path looks unbearably attractive. On those days especially then, remember that strength is not built in the moments when it is easy. It is built in the exact moment when it would be completely forgivable to give up, and you don't. The Stoics did not ask the universe for a softer life. They asked themselves for a stronger one. And then, in silence, without applause, without guarantee of outcome, they built it. So can you, starting with the very next thought you choose to think. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Marcus Aurelius.